Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hi, my name is Alyssa, and for today's video, we are going to be doing a makeup tutorial that I really have not thought through yet. All I know is that I kind of want it to be like a warm, kind of fall-y-esque tutorial, so that's what we're going to do. I decorated for fall today, as you guys can see. I've got like my pumpkins and my skull up, so I'm just feeling the fall vibe. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right on into it because, yeah, that's, I think, the best thing we can do. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, gang, speaking of fall, I've got my little bat earrings in that I got from Target. How cute, right? I love them. So I have no idea what we're doing. I've pulled the Tati Beauty palette because it's got just so many great core neutrals, and I'm kind of feeling a more matte look today. I've been doing a lot of glitter, even though I kind of want to use the glitter. I think I'm going to refrain. And we're gonna do something a little more matte. We maybe pop on a shimmer. We'll see how we feel. But I'm kind of thinking we start with the eyes first. I kind of think maybe we tape it down. We get something a little smoky, little cat eye, if you will. So I'm gonna prep my eyes with some tape. I'll probably be right back in a second because it takes me forever to get this tape off this thing. So pause, please. Okay, we're here. We've got the eyes taped. The worst thing about taping your eyes, I won't lie, is the feeling that I get when they're never going to be quite even. Are these even? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. The more I look at it, the more I'm stressed that it's not. I did go ahead and prep my eyes with some concealer and a little bit of powder. And I'm honestly just going to have to hope for the best right now. You know what? It is what it is. I love taping your eyes because I love how you can get such a precise look. However, I feel like every time I do it, I don't do it quite right. But you know what? That's all right. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. So I am going to start with the Tati Beauty palette because this is one of the easiest palettes to use considering the shades are so gradual here. I'm kind of feeling like more browns and neutrals on the top, maybe a pop of orange on the bottom, maybe. We'll see how it goes. So I'm going to dip into this shade right here called Soothe. It's a gorgeous, just like neutral caramel brown, and we're just going to start tossing this in the crease. I don't know that you can get this anymore unless you get it from somewhere else, because I don't think Tati Beauty is in business anymore, which really kind of sucks because, you know, there was always discussions that she was going to release another palette similar to this one. I guess maybe with different colors or like a different story to it, but you know, what can you do? It'd be like that. So just blending this in, it can be pretty messy. I'm going for something smoky towards the top, and since we've got that cut crease, not cut crease, since we've got the outer edge kind of cut off, that'll kind of help make it a little more structured. So just kind of laying that down. So I think instead of jumping straight to the deep brown here, because it's just a very large jump from this shade to this shade, I think I'm going to dip into the Jaclyn and Morphe palette. This is the first one, and I'm thinking I'm going to take this shade right here. I don't know what it's called, obviously. It's hard to tell on camera because a lot of her shades on the camera will start looking very similar. Like in the viewfinder, these all look pretty dang like the same. But this one right here is more of a neutral kind of warm tone brown. I was thinking about this one, but this one pulls a little more cool tone, which I want to keep this look a little more warm. This one's like a purple and this is black. So I think I'm going to use this kind of like slightly less deep than this. Is it? Like, am I crazy? Ah, yes, here's a comparison of the two. So this one is Tati and this one is Jaclyn. See how they're both warm, but this one just is gonna give me a little bit more definition before I go directly in with this one. And so that's why I'm gonna use it. So I'm gonna take a slightly smaller fluffy brush. This first one that I was using is a BH Cosmetics V5, if you guys are wondering. And I'm going to now dip into using a Morphe M441, one of my faves. It's not much smaller than the V5, but just a little bit because I want it to mimic the same type of thing. So we're going to dip into this shade from the Jaclyn palette. This one is pretty new to me. Like, I've only used a couple shades from it as I got rid of the original one that I had because it was getting old. But this is such a great palette. I know probably all of you already have it, but if you don't, oh my goodness, it's such a good one. Jaclyn and Morphe really did that with this palette. It's such a staple. I love her second one as well, you guys know this, but this one for pretty much almost anybody, because it's got good pops of color, a lot of good neutrals that are like cool tone, warm tone, they lean more red, they lean more purple, like it's just a really nice palette if you don't already have it. So we're just gonna put this in the crease as well, keeping it a teeny bit lower. You can see the original shade still popping out there. And we're just gonna blend that back and forth. I'm not really blending this up, so this is truly just gonna be a sweeping side to side motion in the crease. Not really doing any circular motions, as you guys can see, just truly swiping back and forth. And then ever so lightly, I'll pull it up just a little bit to help it blend in with the other shade. So the same thing on this eye. Dip in there, tap it off, and again, that's just going literally back and forth in the crease. Sweeping motions right here. I'll like concentrate on one side, sweep, 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 move to a second, sweep. And again, as you guys can see, pretty much just going back and forth in the crease. If you do any sort of swirling motions like this, that's gonna blend it up and that'll start covering up that original shade, which isn't what we want. And you'll see down here on the lid, it's giving me like a harsh line, but we're gonna cover that anyways. So it's okay. If you feel like you need to, you can always blend it down a little bit, but not really necessary. It just depends on your comfort level when you're doing a look like this. And then again, blend it up just a smidgen to help it blend. And then we're gonna dip right back into the first shade we used. Very, very little, like one little dab in there, tap off the excess, and we're gonna place it, as you can see, right above the shade. And we're gonna do some more sweeping motions here. And this is when we'll kind of do some circular motions a little bit, really blending this up. It's really important when you are doing a look like this, something that's going to be pretty smoky and you're using a lot of similar colors, that you really focus on blending at each step. Because if I were to have like the deepest brown or the black put down, and I'm trying to do all this extra blending work, if I hit any of those shades, of course, then I start transferring it into areas of the look that I don't want. So that's the thing about makeup looks, is like you just really have to take your time with them and really focus on blending at each step. Sometimes it's so easy to just want to be kind of almost like done with the look and be like, well, I'm just gonna, you know, pop them down and be finished, because I get it. Sometimes it feels like you're staying in the same spot forever, but don't let it discourage you. Just take your time. Right now I'm just dipping into the shade in the Jaclyn palette and building up. Like, I felt like this eye wasn't quite as prominent as this one. So just building up that shade a little bit more. And then again, right back in with the first brush. I didn't add any product this time, just blend a little bit. So we're going to take an even smaller brush. This one is going to be a Morphe M443. So as you guys can see here, for those of you who may not know, this was the M441, nice and big and fluffy, and this one is slightly smaller, as you can see, gonna give me more control. And we are now going to dip into this brown shade in the Tati Beauty palette called Ritual, and we're going to start putting this down. So I'm taking just a little bit. I highly encourage, as you start dipping into deeper shades until you're comfortable, the teeniest bit will get you exactly where you need to go. And then we are going to start keeping this pretty low. I think I'm going to keep this primarily on the outer corner. I may bring it in just a little bit. We'll see. I'm not sure how I want this look to go. Most of the time when I do a look like this where I cut the outer portion, I like the inner corner of my eye to either be naked or have a more matte shade on there. So we'll see. But I'm going to start putting this on the lid in this outer portion. Look how beautiful that is. Nice and deep and rich. And I am just going to start bringing this onto the lid. Now, this is going to be the part where you're like, oh crap, look at how she laid it down. It looks like a little dark spot. Don't let that scare you. It's because you're blending in a smaller area, so it takes longer for it to blend, because instead of pulling the product all the way over, I'm literally keeping it right here. It is just fine. The look is going to be deeper in this area, but don't let it stress you out. Just take your time, really blend it. I'm doing small circular motions down here, so that way I'm pulling the product down and around, essentially. And we're just going to take our time. I am going to pull this slightly into the very lower crease, just about little ways in like that. And again. Whew. Then I'm going to pick up a little bit more because I do want it deeper at my lash line here. So I'm going to pat it on in this lower lash line as well. Lower lash line. That don't make no sense. We're working on the top lash line, Alyssa. Jeez. And we're going to keep doing the same thing. Pulling it in. Look how pretty that is. Look how nice that's blending. I'm going to bring it in just a little bit more so you can get a closer look at what your girl's doing here. So you see how like we're really just focusing on keeping this nice and low. See, it's very low in the crease, almost like it's got like a little start and stop right there. We're going to keep doing that, really focusing on blending it from here down to the lash line and then in like this. And again, I'm going to hit the crease just a little bit, very light fluffy strokes, keeping it nice and low. I tend to like to pull mine in about, I would say like 3/4 of the way. It's just what I like for my face shape, but you definitely can keep it more out if you want. You can pull it all the way in if you want, whatever you want to do. Doing light little flicks back and forth here. I'm gonna add just a little bit more to this like very bottom portion. This sometimes is difficult with the tape there, I find, because I want to close my eye, but then my eye gets a little scrunchy. So you just gotta kind of work with your eye shape and how you got it sitting down. And you can always use a smaller brush if you feel like it's necessary. I'm gonna take the brush that I used, the M441, with a little bit, tiniest, it's almost like I didn't even dip it in there, in that Jaclyn shade, and just buff right here, nice and low, helping these shades really blend together. Again, we're sticking to more sweeping motions with this shade because we don't want to overpower the first shade that we put down, but we want to make sure that the deepest shade we just laid down and this one mesh really well together, especially right here on this outer portion. What I'm now going to do is take a clean, fluffy brush, just a naked one, and I'm going to lightly blend this area right down here because I'll either put a more light matte shade and maybe a light shimmer, but one of my favorite things to do is actually put nothing in this portion. But if you're going to put nothing, it's really got to be blended right here. So I literally just kind of blend my edges like this. All right, so I plucked the tape off my eyes, so it was driving me absolutely nuts. Do I actually think they're even? No, I think they're a little off, but don't look too close at it, okay? No judging. And I think I am gonna put shimmer on it because I just want a little something. So I have my Dose of Colors Desi and Katie quad, and I think that this is the shade Soothe right here. It's a really, really, really pretty shade. I am gonna pick it up on a small brush because I don't want it to get out of pocket with my finger, because my fat little finger gonna go in there and ruin everything I got. And I think I'm gonna actually spray it down instead of leaving it powdery. So I've got my setting spray. I'm taking this little Morphe flat little brush thing. It doesn't have a number on it, so who knows. And I'm gonna pick up some of this shade very carefully. This one is very kind of crumbly in the pan. And then I'm going to, look at that, tap it on. Oh, I forgot how stunning this shade is. I need a closer mirror. Hold on. Oh my God, it's so pretty. Ooh, child. And I'm tapping but lightly pulling so that way it kind of lays down how I want. Dip it back in there. And again, spray it. You want to spray every time if you're going to do this. Don't just count on the brush the fact that you sprayed it once to be wet. Especially if you're using this little palette that I'm using, because it doesn't keep it quite the same. Oh my God. Oh, it's so stinking pretty. They really popped off with this one. And as I get a little closer to where the dark shades are, I tap a little less, so it almost starts to fade out. As you can see, it's like really prominent here in the front, and then a little less in the back. And how I just said I want to spray the brush every time. As I start getting back here, I'm not. So it'll look a little bit more patchy, like it's fading out. And then I'm going to take the brush that we use the darkest shade on, and I'm going to lightly, more like tap, to help this blend a little bit. Don't want to really rub because I don't want to rub the glitter into the deepest part of the eye look. I do think I want some liner. I don't know that I was mentally prepared to do liner, but I think I want at least a little wing. So I'm going to use my trusty dusty Hank & Henry Slick With It liner in the shade Blickity Black. I've mentioned it a million times here on my channel before, but if you're new or for some reason ain't seen me, heard about it, or you forgot about it, this is the best felt tip liner. I love this so much. It's so good. It has such a nice tip on it. It stays nice and opaque. It's so easy to work with, and so I don't know how well I'll stay in camera for this, so if you see it, great. If you don't, I'm sorry, but sometimes I'll be like leaned all the way over with this to like let my elbows rest. But we're literally going to follow the lines we've already done. That's another good thing about tape, is because you don't have to guess. You just follow where you've already put the stuff down. And like that. I think I'm gonna keep this a little lower. I don't know that I'm gonna go all the way in. With the glitter, I may keep it about right there, because I'm gonna, of course, do lashes. See how easy that was? Did you see how easy that was? I'm just saying. Okay, you guys, so we got them wings on, liners looking good, if I do say so myself. And so now we're gonna jump to the face. For my first primer, I'm gonna go in with my Cover FX Blurring Primer. I really do love this. I have been using this for a hot minute. I've been, of course, there was no need for that. Okay, excuse the heck out of me. I've been using this religiously for a while, trying to really use this bad boy up. You guys know I'm working on using up my product. And so this one I'm using just pretty much in my T-zone, on my nose, forehead, and I'm really working on pushing in and down. This is where most of my pores are, right in this section, of course, right here in my forehead. Oh, got my hair, Lord. And my chin. For my second primer, I'm going to go in with this Kaja, the Dream Puff Radiant Mousse Primer. I have a whole video dedicated to this primer, and I will link that down below for you guys if you're curious. This is such a fun little primer. It comes out, of course, as a mousse, so I'm going to shake it up. I don't know why I did that while I started talking. That had to be annoying. And it kind of gives like a radiant glow to the skin. And I don't use this often, and since I'm not kind of running around today or doing nothing crazy, I figured I'd use it for this one. So I don't need a lot because obviously it is this moussey texture. I do kind of break it down, and as you guys can see here on my hand, it has just a really pretty glow to it. I'm going to use this on the perimeter of my face, so cheeks, sides of the forehead, where I wouldn't mind a little bit of glow. I really don't pull this into my T-zone, as I don't really want it to mix with my first primer. For my foundation, I'm going to go in with my Fenty Beauty Pro Filter. As you guys can see, I'm almost done with this bad boy, so we're going to use it today. And this is a little light for me, so I'm going to go in with my Drunk Elephant De-Bronzy Anti-Pollution Sunshine Drops. I highly, highly, highly recommend this product. If you are looking for a way to help make your foundations a little bit darker, I know how annoying it can be to feel like you have to buy multiples in like multiple shades in a foundation. I ain't got time for that. For every foundation that I've used and I've mixed with this product, it has not changed the formula of my foundation, the texture, consistency, anything like that. It doesn't cause it to do any different on my skin. So again, highly recommend those products if you are looking for a way to make your products work better for you. I'm gonna go in with the Fenty Beauty Cream Bronzer. This is in the number 03 Macchiato. Very pretty. It looks very scary in the pan, but I promise it's not. So I'm gonna take my Real Techniques, this is just a sculpting brush. I don't know if they make this anymore. I've been looking for another one, but I haven't been able to find it. And I'm literally just gonna dip it in there, and then I'm gonna start popping it here. I'm not necessarily just using this for contour, but also as like an under bronzer to help kind of bronze up my skin. With cream products, I always have to set with a powder anyways, so if it's a little messy, it ain't that big of a deal to me because I'm gonna put a lot more over. I am gonna use it a little bit to kind of contour very lightly. And essentially by doing that, I'm just not blending down. I'm literally blending it up. We're gonna bring it into this area, the temple. Pull it kind of around like that. For concealer, I don't want anything too crazy bright. So I'll probably just go in with my Shape Tape in light medium honey. It's what I used on my lids anyways. Keep the same product out. I'm gonna do a little here and some there. A little here and some there. The only thing that I hate about doing my eyes first is the way that I gotta be extra careful when I blend my concealer. Girl, cause I like to I'm aggressive, okay? So I'm gonna let the ones under my eyes sit. I'm gonna take my sponge and just start blending these out. The reason I let it sit under my eyes for a few minutes before I do blend those out is to let it get a little tacky. I find it a little bit easier to blend, and it tends to be a little more full coverage because I do have really deep set under eyes, and it feels like most of the time I have to use a little less product when I wait. Most of the time I'm always gonna go in with a second layer on my under eyes, but again, I'm counteracting the fact that my under eyes are deep set. All right, so now I have got to set with a little bit of powder because, girl, I'm greasy. So I'm gonna take my sponge. I'm gonna go in with this pretty Vulgar, it's called the Powder Room Matte About It Translucent Setting Powder. And I'm just going to take a little bit, nothing crazy, and we're just going to start melting this underneath the eyes. I'm not baking, so like I'm not setting so much powder there where I've got to leave it to sit, but I am going to do enough where it just kind of melts into the skin. So I'm not going to end up like really brushing anything away, just really laying it down. And just look how nicely that melts right into the skin. Obviously this isn't going to be for everybody because it's a more mattifying powder, but as someone who is a grease ball, if she's not careful, then this is really good for me. All right, so now I'm gonna go in with my powder bronzer. Now, typically I would use a brush like this. This is the Real Techniques blush brush, which is hilarious. That's the world's biggest blush brush I've ever seen. I've always said that. Typically I would go in with this because I wanna keep it a little bit more controlled so I can have a little bit of contour. I'm gonna go in with this Luxie 522 tapered highlighter brush, which again, who's using this for highlighter? I got questions. So I'm going to use this brush. As you can see, the size difference here on these. And so for bronzer, I'm going to go in with my Anastasia powder bronzer in the shade Rosewood. I just took a chunk out of her. I'm really sorry about that. This is a gorgeous bronzer. It pulls a little bit more warm and slightly red toned, especially compared to, for example, my NARS matte Laguna bronzer. Like, as you can see, they're both warm, but this is pulling you know, a little bit more red, while this I would consider more neutral. And since I want to give myself a little bit more color, I'm going to use this one today. And I'm just going to take the brush, dip it in, tap it off, and then we're just gonna do some swirling motions. And this is essentially setting the cream bronzer, where are my words, that I laid down without doing anything crazy. And I'm just using a little bit at a time. My bronzers that I have that I've showed thus far do really well layering. They don't get muddy, they don't really get weird. Obviously, if you use too much product, anything can happen. There's a first time for everything, which is why I recommend going in with just such a little bit. And literally, I'm using the lightest pressure. You can literally hold this brush at the end and just do some swirling motions. That's probably gonna be your best bet if you are nervous about laying down too much product. This is the Note Cosmetics blush in the shade Desert Rose. It's a stunning, more peachy than pink blush color. It's gorgeous. I think it goes well with everything and it layers really beautifully. So I'm going to use a Morphe E4 blush brush. These are my favorite ones. I'm going to tap in there, nothing too crazy as you guys can see. Tap off the excess, and for me, I like my blush pretty much to be on the top of my cheek, so I keep it above all of my bronzer, and I'm putting it almost where I put my concealer. I pull it out to the back and I cup it around the temple as well. I love my blush to kind of do a C shape this way. And then I will pull it in just a smidgen to this inner portion right here. A lot of times I do go all the way over my face. Not always. Sometimes I'll stop it and just do a smidgen on the nose. It kind of just depends on what I'm feeling. The reason I love these because they're angled, so it makes it easy for me to put exactly where I want it. I am putting it almost where you would think you'd put your highlight, and again, cupping it around the temple, bringing it all the way here. It's like truly a continuation of my bronzer, and then again, I'll pull it slightly in here. I am going to take the Ritual shade. That was from the Tati Beauty palette. I'm going to go in with a flat definer brush. This is the Sigma E15. And I'm going to lightly put this on my lash line. I do think I'm going to keep this more towards this outer portion, maybe about halfway like that. I don't want the inner portion of my eye to look too squinty and closed. I'm going to take a teeny tiny dab of the shade from the Jaclyn palette, and then I'm going to go in with the Soothe shade from the Tati Beauty. I'm going to kind of mix them together on this brush and lightly start buffing this out right here. Not really dragging it in, just keeping it back here for the moment. And then ever so slightly pulling it in like this. There we go. Notice how it blended in the brown shade just a bit more than here, but it didn't pull it all the way over, and yet it does look like I have some shadow. Typically, I'm a huge fan of smoking out the lower lash line, but for this look, I want to keep it nice and close. All right, so for highlighter, I'm going to go in with probably my favorite highlighter of all time, which is the Anastasia and Amrezy highlighter. This is everything. So I'm going to go ahead and take this on a brush, and I'm going to pop this back here. It's so stunning. All right, so for lips, I'm going to start with this shade. This is the Kylie Cosmetics Matte Liquid Lip in Ginger. This was literally my favorite lipstick for the longest. I love the color, so we're gonna pop it on. You know, initially I was thinking like red or something like that, but that feels too Christmassy for what we're going for. So we're gonna start with this. Let's see here. Oh, we're going very monochromatic. This is the completed makeup look. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. It's so easy to do, but it definitely looks like I really tried hard, very elegant, very elevated, and you can definitely take this to day or night, especially if you did like a gloss during the day and then amped it up with a lipstick or something at night. I think it would look stunning. It's giving me warm, cozy fall, and I'm living for it. It's starting to rain outside. perfect vibes. But anyways, you guys, I would love to know your thoughts down below as always. If you enjoyed this tutorial, more of like a teaching you, walking you step by step, kind of a more technical tutorial, let me know down below and I would be happy to do more like this for you. This gives me more like old school makeup tutorial vibes, if you will. I know most of the time I'm doing like a voiceover, it's really quick. I'm not really going into depth step by step. And if you prefer this, let me know. I'd be happy to do some more like this. And if you want more like this as well, let me know what colorways you want to see. I can bring you almost anything. I know a lot of people look for the neutrals, but like if you want to see, you know, greens, blues, purples, whatever, let me know. I'd be happy to create looks and kind of go literally just like this one, step by step and in real time what I'm doing with the tutorial. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here. If you did like it, as always, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Follow me on my other socials linked down below, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!